It's the SOAP, man. It's the SOAP, man. Is this thing on? Welcome back to another episode of Son of a Preacher Man. As always, I am your host, the Soap Man. Now, before we get started, I just want to let you know this is not a green screen that you're looking at in the background. It's a beautiful day in my neighborhood. What was we talking about? Oh yeah, David. So 2 episodes ago, in my episode titled The Ruler, the Bible gives you this brief synopsis of how David defeats all of his enemies round about. He defeats the Moabites, he defeats the Philistines, he defeats the Amalekites. And it gives the first mention of this king of Syria named Hadarezer. Okay, and the Bible does this sometimes. Well, it'll give you this brief synopsis of an event, and then it'll come back later and give you a more detailed study or a more in-depth revealing of an event that took place. And to the untrained mind, it'll leave you thinking that these are 2 separate events, when really they talking about the same event. So in my episode called The Ruler, it mentions this king Hadarezer that David defeats and conquers his land, and it becomes David's land. It becomes David's territory. He extends his territory, he extends his rule, and really triples the size of the Israel kingdom, or the kingdom of Israel. So 2 episodes ago in The Ruler, it mentions this king Hadarezer that David defeats. And then in my last episode, the Bible goes off on a tangent. It talks about how David shows kindness to Jonathan's son Mephibosheth. And now in this episode, it's going to give you a more detailed study into David's conquering of this king of Syria, Hadarezer. So I just wanted to give you that little update, because this episode is going to be a little tricky and a whole lot confusing. Okay, so let's just jump right off into it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Son of a Preacher Man proudly presents the 2nd book of Samuel, part 6, the Retribution. Okay, so we're going to start off in 2 Samuel chapter 8, verses 1 through 8. And this is where the Bible first mentions this king Hadarezer, okay? So it says, "And after this came to pass that David smote the Philistines and subdued them. And David took Methegama out of the hand of the Philistines. And he smote Moab and measured them with a line, casting them down to the ground. Even with 2 lines measured he to put to death, and with 1 full line to keep alive. And so the Moabites became David's servants and brought gifts. David smote also Hadarezer." Now this is the first mention of this king of Syria named King Hadarezer. It says, "David smote also Hadarezer, the son of Rehob, king of Zobah, as he went to recover his border at the river Euphrates. And David took from him 1,000 chariots and 700 horsemen and 20,000 footmen. And David hauled, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And David hauled all the chariot horses," meaning he cut them at the ankles, rendering them useless, "but reserved of them for 100 chariots. And it takes 1 to 4 horses to draw a chariot, so he reserved no more than 400 horses for himself." And it says, "And when the Syrians of Damascus came to succor Hadarezer, king of Zobah, David slew of the Syrians 22,000 men. Then David put garrisons in Syria of Damascus. And the Syrians became servants to David and brought gifts. And the Lord preserved David whithersoever he went. And David took the shields of gold that were on the servants of Hadarezer, and brought them to Jerusalem. And from Bela and from Berothai, cities of Hadarezer, King David took exceeding much brass. Okay, so I got a map here for you, for those who like, details. I know most of y'all don't, but for the few that do, like me, and may want to go, confirm what I'm saying, or just, want to look at the details, I've provided this map. We got the kingdom of Israel here in blue, and below it in this like reddish color, we got the kingdom of Judah, and that is the whole of the kingdom of Israel that David rules. Now here on the Mediterranean coast, to the west of Judah, is the territory of the Philistines. To the south of them, you got the Arubu tribes, which are the Amalekites. To the west of them, you got the kingdom of Edom. North of the kingdom of Edom, on the east side of the Jordan River, you have the kingdom of Moab. To the north of them, you have the kingdom of Ammon. Now to the west of the kingdom of Ammon and to the north of the kingdom of Ammon, you have the Syrian tribes. Okay, so I got another map here for you. This part in like brown or peach that you see, that's going to be Hadazezer's kingdom. It says territory controlled by king of Aram, Zobah. Hadarezer is the king of Zobah, and he rules most of this territory that you see here. And down here you have the kingdom of Ammon. And these are the two rivals of David that we're going to be dealing with in today's episode. This little area here, Ammon, and this area up here to the north of Israel, the Syrians. I've got another map here. You see it says Zobah, just to confirm and correlate all my maps so you get a detailed idea and visual of exactly where we're talking about. The Bible mentions, I called it Bela, it's Beta. Here's that city. It mentions Damascus, here's that city. And it mentions Berothai, here's that city. And they're all within the territory of Zobah. So one last map, just so you can put everything together and get a nice little visual. This is the area of Zobah, territory ruled by the Syrian king Hadarezer. And one final map just to show you, outlined in this bluish green line, is the territory that David starts out with, minus the Philistine territory, which will be right here. They've got a nice little chunk of land right here on the Mediterranean coast. But everything outside this bluish green line is where David is going to extend his rule. So as you can see from my map, by the time this battle is over that we're going to talk about in this episode, by the time it's all said and done, David will have tripled the size of his kingdom. Not bad at all for King David. Okay, so we started off in 2 Samuel chapter 8. Now, that's the first mention of King Hadarezer. It gives you this brief synopsis. It tells you that David defeats this king. Now we're going to fast forward and skip over to 2 Samuel chapter 10, where it's going to give you a more in-depth reading of how this took place. So 2 Samuel chapter 10, verses 1 through 7 reads as follows. And it came to pass after this, that the king of Ammon died, and Hanun his son reigned in his stead. Then said David, I will show kindness unto Hanun the son of Nahash, as his father showed kindness to me. And David sent to comfort him by the hand of his servants. And David sent to comfort him by the hand of his servants for his father. And David's servants came into the land of the children of Ammon. And the princes of the children of Ammon said unto Hanun their lord, Thinkest thou that David doth honor thy father, that he hath sent comforters unto thee? Hath not David rather sent his servants unto thee to search the city and to spy it out, and to overthrow it? Wherefore Hanun took David's servants and shaved off the one half of their beards, and cut off their garments in the middle, even to their buttocks, and sent them away. When they told it unto David, he sent to meet them, because the men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, Tarry at Jericho until your beards be grown, and then return. And when the children of Ammon saw that they stank before David, And notice I have the word stank in big, bold, red print, because in my opinion, this is a Negro word. And if you a Negro, you know exactly what that meant. These men then toe they behind with King David when they disrespected his servants, his envoy. It says, and when the children of Ammon saw that they stank before David, the children of Ammon sent and hired the Syrians of Beth Rehob and the Syrians of Zobah, 20,000 footmen, and of King Maacah 1,000 men, and of Ishtab 12,000 men. And when David heard of it, he sent Joab and all the host of the mighty men. Now let's break this down for clarity's sake. Okay, so the king of Ammon dies, and his name is King Nahash. And in his place, his son Hanun reigns. Now Hanun and his advisors, they some young bucks. It's a newer generation, and he doesn't have the relationship with David that his father had. See, King Nahash, he knew David, and he knew it was better to make peace with David than to make war. So when King Nahash dies, David sends this envoy. He sends a few servants to come and comfort the new king, King Hanun. But King Hanun's advisors, his servants, the princes of the land, they convince him that David is up to no good, that he has malicious intentions. And so they tell him, what do you think, David sent these men to comfort you? Don't it make more sense that he sent them to spy out the land so that he could overtake the land and, take it for himself? So they convince this new king, this young king, King Hanun, that David is up to no good. And King Hanun, following the advice of his subjects, totally and completely disrespects the servants of David. He shaves off half of their beards, and he cuts their garments in the middle, exposing their genitals and their booty. Now check this out. I gotta explain something to you. Because over here in America, showing your behind ain't that big of a deal. We do it all the time. We like it. But back in these days, over in that part of the world, that's about the most humiliating and disrespectful thing you can do to a man, is to shave off half of their beard and cut their garments, showing their booties. Okay, so this dude totally disrespects the servants of David. And when David catches wind of it, he's pissed naturally. He tells his subjects, he says, don't trip. I got your back. There's going to be a retribution. He tells them, tarry in Jericho, in the city of Jericho, until your beards grow back. Change your clothes, put on some clothes, put some drawers on. You know what I mean? And cover yourselves. Get your dignity back. And then return home. He says, don't trip. I'm going to handle that for you. The Bible says when the children of Ammon saw that they stank before David, they hired mercenaries to help protect themselves. They know they done messed up. They know they done effed up big with David. And so they take the preemptive, I don't want to say strike. They take the preemptive initiative to defend themselves by hiring a bunch of mercenaries, mostly from the Aramean and Syrian tribes, okay? Now, there's one thing I got to tell you about the Syrians, all right? And that's why I put a couple slides up showing you like the Syrian soldier. These are a whole different breed of enemies that David and the children of Israel are dealing with. They ain't no joke. The closer you get, the further east you go, the more bouted the competition becomes. You see these dudes are dressed basically from head to toe in this scale type of armor. They are no joke. These dudes can fight. So David sends out his top general Joab to go deal with this disrespectful king of Ammon and these Syrian mercenaries that he has hired to defend him. And these Syrians are about it. They are much more of a problem than the children of Ammon could ever be, okay? They bout it. And, you know, David and his generals, Joab in particular, they're well aware of what they're dealing with, okay? They come on horseback, they come on foot, they come in chariots. They're armed to the hilt, they're advanced, they got advanced weaponry for that time, and they know how to fight, they know how to use them weapons. Plainly put, these boys ain't no joke. Okay, so 2 Samuel chapter 10 verses 8 through 14 reads, "And the children of Ammon came out and put the battle in array at the entering of the gate. And the Syrians of Zobah and Rehob and Ishtab and Maacah were by themselves in the field. When Joab saw that the front of the battle was against him before and behind, he chose of all the choice men of Israel and put them in array against the Syrians. And the rest of the people he delivered into the hand of Abishai, his brother, that he might put them in array against the children of Ammon. And he said, If the Syrians be too strong for me, then thou shalt help me. But if the children of Ammon be too strong for thee, then I will come and help thee. Be of good courage, and let us play the men for our people, and for the cities of our God. And the Lord do that which seemeth good, and the Lord do that which seemeth him good. And Joab drew near, or nigh, and the people that were with him, unto the battle against the Syrians, and they fled before him. And when the children of Ammon saw that the Syrians were fled, then fled they also before Abishai, and entered into the city. So Joab returned from the children of Ammon and came to Jerusalem." Now let me break down what happened, okay? David sends out his top general Joab, which is also his nephew. And when Joab gets to the territory of the children of Ammon, he sees that he's got a battle. He sees that he's got a fight on his hands. And the fight is on two fronts, because the Bible says the children of Ammon positioned themselves at the city gate, okay? And that the Syrians are in the field by themselves. So Joab knows that if he attacks the Ammonites with his full force, he's going to be sandwiched in between the Ammonites and the Syrians. So he tells his brother Joab, so Joab tells his brother Abishai. And look, Abishai, in my opinion, is really the better of the two fighters in single-hand combat or single-armed combat. But Joab is the better military strategist. So Joab, look at what he does. He takes the best fighters of his army with him to fight the Syrians, because they're the tougher of the two armies that he's facing. Between the children of Ammon and the Syrians are the tougher fight. So he takes the best soldiers in the Israelite army with him to fight the Syrians. He tells his brother Abishai, you take the rest of the men and you go and engage the children of Ammon. He says, if I start losing, you come help me. If you start losing, I'll come help you. Now, Joab, he wins the day, because the Bible says that the Syrians flee before Joab. And when the children of Ammon see that the Syrians flee before Joab, that they flee from before his brother Abishai. So Joab wins the day, but he doesn't get to punish the children of Ammon because they run back into the city. He doesn't get to take the city. He doesn't get to take the territory of the Ammonites. So he returns back to Jerusalem. They put up a good fight, though. They were fighting on two fronts, and they come out of the fight victorious. But they return home, not really defeating any of the enemies. It kind of ends in a stalemate. The Syrians flee from before Joab, and the Ammonites flee from before his brother Abishai. Okay, so 2 Samuel chapter 10, verses 15 through 19 reads, "And when the Syrians saw that they were smitten before Israel, they gathered themselves together, and Hadarezer sent and brought out the Syrians that were beyond the river. And they came to Helam, and Shobach, the captain of the host of Hadarezer, went before them. And when it was told David, he gathered all Israel together and passed over Jordan and came to Helam. And the Syrians set themselves in array against David and fought with him. And the Syrians fled before Israel. And David slew of the men of 700 chariots of the Syrians and 40,000 horsemen, and smote Shobach, the captain of their host, who died there. And when all the kings that were servants to Hadarezer saw that they were smitten before Israel, they made peace with Israel and served them. So the Syrians feared to help the children of Ammon any more." And you notice I got some words and phrases in big, bold, red print. Let's unpack all this for clarity's sake, of course. We got this King Hadarezer, king of Zobah, these Syrian tribes. And after the initial defeat of his armies, he says to himself, I ain't going out like that. Look, this is a powerful king with a powerful army, and he's not used to defeat. I'm trying to condense all this story in a short period of time so I don't bore you to death. But what you need to understand is this king ain't used to getting his hat handed to him like that. His men have been defeated like they didn't even put up much of a fight. Joab gives them the business and they tuck tail and run, and the Ammonites do the same. So King Hadarezer says, oh, I ain't going out like that. I ain't going out like that. He regroups and reforms. He starts bringing in more Syrian tribes from beyond the river Euphrates. I think that's the river they're talking about. And he regroups and marches his army to the city of Helam. And the Bible says he goes out before them. So he's leading them himself. He says to himself, if you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself. This is a proud and powerful king, and he's not about to go out like that. Now, King David does the same thing, and here is the map of, I wanted to show you where Helam was. So after the initial defeat of the Syrians in the territory of Ammon, King Hadarezer, he gathers more Syrian tribes, he gathers reinforcements, and he marches at the head of his army to Helam. Well, David does the same thing. After Joab and Abishai come back, after their victory, but it's really, it's a bittersweet victory. It's not a total and complete victory. It's more of a stalemate. David says, no one does it better. He comes out and he leads his army and meets Hadarezer at Helam. And what happens? The same thing that always happens when you come up against David. He runs amok through the Syrians. Nobody does it better than David. He is a military genius. Okay, so he defeats King Hadarezer at Helam. Says let's go back. Ooh, boy, I tell you, this computer, it does what it wants to do. Let's get back on point, because it's just doing what it wanna do. Okay? It says that, I'm sorry, y'all. So it says that, and the Syrians set themselves in array against David and fought with them. And the Syrians fled before David, and David slew the men of 700 chariots of the Syrians and 40,000 horsemen. So he not only defeats the king of Syria, Hadarezer, in battle, 40,000 horsemen, 700 chariots. Ladies and gentlemen, if Hadarezer didn't like his first defeat at the hands of Joab, this is an ignominious defeat at the hands of David. Nobody does it better than David. Understand this, Joab is about the best general money can buy. Okay? So the fact that David comes out and handles his business on his own just shows you the stiff competition that Joab and his brother are up against when fighting the Syrians and the children of Ammon. So when Hadarezer regroups and David comes out himself, that speaks volumes. That should speak volumes to you. David says, look, I'm about to handle this myself. I ain't above getting my hands dirty. And no one does it better than King David. We didn't talk about him enough. We didn't see him in battle enough to know how he gets down. He is practically victorious in everything he does. Practically everything he does turns to gold. And up until this point, he's not seen defeat. He had to run from King Saul in his early days, but since he's become king, he's like 10 for 10. Okay, so not only does he defeat the Syrians and King Hadarezer, he destroys and annihilates 40,000 horsemen, 700 chariots, but he also kills Shobach, Hadarezer's top general. It says that Shobach is defeated and dies there on the battlefield. 2 Samuel chapter 8 verses 9 through 18 reads, "And when Toi, king of Hamath, heard that David had smitten all the host of Hadarezer, then Toi sent Joram his son unto King David to salute him and to bless him, because he had fought against Hadarezer and smitten him. For Hadarezer had wars with Toi. And Joram brought with him vessels of silver and vessels of gold and vessels of brass, which also King David did dedicate unto the Lord, with the silver and gold that he dedicated of all nations, with the silver and gold that he dedicated of all nations which he subdued, of Syria and of Moab, and of the children of Ammon, and of the Philistines, and of Amalek, and of the spoil of Hadarezer, son of Rehob, king of Zobah. And David got him a name when he returned from smiting the Syrians in the valley of Salt, being 18,000 men. And he put garrisons in Edom. Throughout all Edom he put garrisons, and all they of Edom became David's servants. And the Lord preserved David whithersoever he went." That's what I mean when I say everything David touched turned to gold. Up until this point, he had not known defeat. It says, "And the Lord preserved David whithersoever he went. And David reigned over all Israel. And David executed judgment and justice unto all his people. And Joab, the son of Zeruiah, was over the host. And Jehoshaphat, the son of Ahilud, was recorder. And Zadok, the son of Ahitub, and Ahimelech, the son of Abiathar, were the priests. And Sariah was the scribe. And Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over both the Cherethites and the Pelethites. And David's sons were chief rulers." So check this out. After David defeats this king of Syria, Hadarezer, the Bible says he got a name for himself. Folks, it wasn't like he didn't have a name before. David was famous all throughout Israel when he defeated Goliath. And he won a number of key battles after he became king of all of Israel. But with this victory, David becomes more famous than ever because it's such a great victory that he executes over King Hadarezer. The Bible says that all the vassals of King Hadarezer come to pay homage to David, one of them being King Toi. He sends his son, and his son presents to David much silver, much brass, much gold. In addition to all the gold and silver and brass that David has taken out of the Amalekites' hands, in addition to all the silver, gold, and brass that he's taken out of the Moabites' hands and the children of Edom, and now the Syrians, this king, King David, is now more wealthy, more famous, more great, more known than he's ever been in his life. He is at the pinnacle of his career. And the reason that I want to emphasize that is because it's like the old saying goes, all good things must come to an end. And all this great fortune that David has accumulated, and this great name that he's made for himself, it's all about to take a turn for the worse. But we won't get into that until next episode. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the part of the episode where I must bid you farewell. If you have any comments, compliments, or insults, please leave them in the comments section. If you want to mix it up with the Soap Man, you want to leave some flirtatious comments, we accept them too. If you got any questions that you want answered, or if you got any topics that you would like to hear me discuss, please leave that in the comments section. If you're new to this channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. With that, I'll see you next time. Same soap time, same soap channel, and we out.